We can all agree that the bad video games of today are way worse than the bad video games back then. But what if I told you that the great video games today are even better than the great video games back then? Hard to believe, isn't it? Well, these videos titled "Gaming Isn't Fun Anymore" will sure tell you otherwise. Now, these videos have been creeping up everywhere, YouTube, other social media platforms, and they're pretty fucking annoying. They'll convince you so hard that today's games aren't as fun as they used to be, that they're never finished on release anymore, that there's no soul to them. And while some of this does ring true in certain aspects, they're really viewing the entire situation all wrong. Now keep in mind, this video isn't specifically directed just at those videos, but people in general who say games aren't fun anymore, whether that's out in the real world or discussion forums or wherever the fuck else. Now I want to make it very clear that I myself am an indie game developer. I make video games, a lot of them being inspired by a whole bunch of other video games across a bunch of different genres on a bunch of different platforms. I've been playing video games since I was really, really young, and even in my adult life, despite it being very busy, I'll try my best to make time for games. But you know what? I understand that not everyone is like me. So that's why I want to approach this video from the perspective of someone who only really plays games casually. Because, oh boy, it's mostly casual video game players who are saying this shit. One point that I see all the fucking time is that video games made now are not as fun as video games in the past. Now, I'm just going to come out and say it. The people who genuinely mean this are the ones who are probably only playing one genre of game or literally only one fucking video game. And for some fucking reason, it's always Minecraft that's the subject here. They'll say something like, yeah, I booted up my Minecraft world. I made a wheat farm, maybe put a cow in a fence and that was it. I lost interest after 30 minutes. Video games aren't fun anymore. Now, look. I myself love Minecraft a lot, but, after playing it for maybe about 10 years at this point, I don't have that same level of excitement that I used to. I'm not as naive as I used to be. I know basically all the mechanics. I know how to be really efficient with getting the tools I need and setting up the bases that I want. Minecraft is not the same for me anymore. But I will never sit here and tell you that Minecraft is a lesser game than it was, especially because you could always just go back and play older versions before all these fucking weird updates that they make now. The perspective that I have now is that I view Minecraft very differently now as an adult than I used to when I was a child. So what is the solution to this? I just play a different game, right? And that's not me saying that I'll never come back to Minecraft again, because let's be honest, I'm probably never going to stop playing Minecraft. I'll only ever take extended breaks and then I'll come back to it. But, if I'm really that bored of Minecraft, yeah, I'll play a different game. And there are plenty of other games that I love just as much as Minecraft. I could go play some Super Smash Brothers or maybe some Doom Eternal or Persona 5. Maybe some Grand Theft Auto Vice City. There's so many games to hold me over that if I'm bored of one, I could easily go to another. And I know Minecraft is always there when I'm just getting that itch to play it again. And the same applies to these other games. But look, I get it. Like I said before, not everyone is like me. Some people really only do just like one genre of game, or again, literally only one game. And for those people, if they simply lose interest in playing that game and have nothing else to go to, then that's perfectly fine. But saying you're not interested in games anymore versus games aren't fun anymore are two very, very different statements. One statement makes it clear that you'd rather do other things with your life. Again, perfectly reasonable. The other one states that there's a problem with video games themselves, and I'm going to get more into detail about that. But with you losing interest in video games, you probably want to do other things with your life. Maybe you grew out of video games. Maybe you have other hobbies that you're more interested in. And I get that, right? So with video games, a lot of people look at it as, you have to work for your entertainment, especially with a lot of hard games nowadays. Some people don't want to put in that work. Instead of working for their entertainment, they just want something that they can passively enjoy. Maybe something like music or film or whatnot. But you know what? Maybe it's not another piece of entertainment that they want. Maybe they just got really into fishing. Maybe fishing is their new hobby, or maybe they like to bowl now, or who knows, maybe these people have children now and they don't really have time for games, but instead they find fulfillment in caring and loving for their family. And you know what? Maybe it could be something more sinister. I know some people that face depression and they just don't get enjoyment out of things that they used to like video games, for example. And it's not even limited to just that. It could be a bunch of things. I will never knock somebody for that. But again, big difference between you not being interested in games anymore and you saying games aren't fun anymore. See the difference there? A lot of people like to conflate these two ideas together, and I don't think that's fair. It is okay to lose interest in video games or anything for that matter, but don't say the thing is worse because of it. That's my point here. Or, for people who do still play video games, maybe they'll say something like, there were a lot more good games back in the past than there are now. And I can assure you that is not the case. Do I even need to remind you people all the fucking licensed trash that was there back in the day? Oh, dude, if there was a new movie, a cartoon, there was a game for it, and it likely fucking sucked. Capitalizing on a popular IP and just slapping together a piece of shit and hoping people would buy it. Now, of course, there are exceptions like Battle for Bikini Bottom, my beloved. But the vast majority of the time, these licensed games sucked. And it wasn't even just licensed games, just any game, really. Maybe if it was based on, like, fucking fishing or something, just some random game. There are plenty of those, but nobody ever talks about them because nobody knows about them. And I don't even need to talk about all the shovelware that was on Wii and DS, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. I remember this one, like, iCarly minigame collection on the Wii that my sister had. And it fucking sucked. I mean, like, nothing's beating Mario Party in that regard. And I don't even like Mario Party. Or on the DS, she had, like, this Hannah Montana movie game. And it was just a really, really shitty rhythm game. Elite Beat Agents, it is not. And no wonder why she doesn't fucking play video games now. She never had Nintendogs. Maybe the timeline would have been a little different if she got a taste of that. But anyway, regardless, bad video games have always been around. And yes, bad video games are even more bad than they were then, but they've always been around. Like, nobody's denying that greed has definitely poisoned the video game industry, an industry that is, I think, the most popular in the world. But again, bad games are always here. And for those who are saying that games now suck or that they're just not fun anymore, here's what I suggest. Play something else. like literally just play something else. There are so many games across so many genres. Maybe you just need to try something different to reinvigorate that spark. Or you know what? If you're really that stubborn and you absolutely refuse to play new games, at least play old games in a new way. Like, for example, with Minecraft, even though I know so much about it now to the point where I'm not as interested as I used to be, when I play it, I make sure to experience it in a new way. So, for example, I like to jump in creative mode and grab my friends and create, like, my own little mini-game maps for us to play together. And it's a fucking blast. I made my own little capture the flag game, as you can see here. It's very simple, but it's very reminiscent of old Minecraft. And I think that's part of the reason why we enjoy it, but also because they just, it's capture the flag. It's a tried and true formula. Or with my girlfriend, we have a survival world where we just take it slow and just build stuff. Here's a cute little house we made a little indoor crop farm here, and I'm honestly having a lot of fun doing this because most of my time playing Minecraft was by myself. So again, my new way of enjoying it is grabbing people, coming together, and just making shit. Making minigames in creative mode, just making these really nice looking survival bases. It's fun. And another game that I was able to come back to and experience in a new way was the SpongeBob SquarePants movie game. And for those who don't know, I mentioned this in my last video, but, it was my first game that I ever played. So despite me playing this game, about 20 years ago at this point, I was still able to get some kind of new enjoyment out of it. So the story is that I was in between moving and I only really had one game on hand with me at the new place because all my games were at the other place. So then I chose to play this game and I thought, let me try something a little different. Instead of playing the game the same way I have for so many years, let me do a no upgrades run. And for those who don't know, upgrades are a pretty integral mechanic to the game. They allow you to enhance your abilities, upgrade your health, etc., etc. And yeah, with no upgrades, the game was a lot harder. I had to exploit the game in all different kinds of ways just to get through. And it made it so much more interesting, I managed to actually do it in maybe about 2 days, and it was super fucking fun. And I will never forget that. I look back very fondly of that memory of me playing this game that I played about 20 years ago and revisiting it more recently and getting a whole new experience out of it. So if I can do that for that game, you guys could probably do it as well. Think, what are some old games that you can try playing a little differently? Because you'd be surprised what kind of fun you can get out of it. Again, if you choose not to play new games for whatever reason, which you totally should because there's so many good new games. Anyway, let me move on to my next point here. A lot of people say that with new games nowadays, they're not released complete. Now, this I could see a lot more truth to because nowadays we have updates and patches. You could release a game in some kind of shitty, unfinished state, but then you can just say, oh, whatever, we'll update it after. We'll add a day one patch, whatever. And you know what? A lot of developers got really lazy because of that. Despite it being a very useful feature to continue iterating on games and adding more stuff to them or just fixing little things, it's been exploited in a way where it incentivizes bad industry practices. It wasn't like back in the day where it was do or die. You could only print the game maybe once, maybe 2 times, right? Because prints were very, very expensive. And if the game is good, then great. You might be on board for the next project. If it sucked, now you're going to have to worry about getting your ass kicked out of the company because you made a fucking shitty game that you can't fix. It was sink or swim. You had to make a good game at the time. And that I can completely understand people's points with that. Being able to update your game whenever you want is definitely a double-edged sword in a lot of ways. But what a lot of people don't realize is those practices are typically for a lot of multiplayer games that are typically more popular, have more people talking about them, and have more demand, meaning that these companies, I guess, feel more obligated to rush them out. I don't think it's very favorable practice because we get a lot of fucking trash out of it. So something like Fallout 76, an RPG with no NPCs. It's like Mario with no powers. What the fuck were they thinking? Fallout's bread and butter is its world and being able to interact with characters in these towns, and they had no NPCs. I don't know what they were thinking there. Absolutely dumb decision. Or another one. Oh, dude, Battlefield 2042, an absolute fucking nightmare trash glitch fest. And so many people were wondering, is this the end of Battlefield? Yeah, no, they rushed this shit out the door. And you know what? For both of these games, yeah, they fixed them eventually. People tend to like Fallout 76 now, but that name is forever going to be tarnished because it had such a poor launch, and that's what it's going to be remembered for. You are going to be remembered for your initial launch, and you have to hope and pray enough people stick around or even look at you to see that you updated yourself. Because if you didn't, you just gave yourself a bad reputation for no reason. What, to get a game out a year or 2 earlier than intended? Was it really worth it? Probably not. But, ignoring those kinds of games, you could see that there are a lot of other games that have a lot more tasteful ways of going about making sure that their games are the best that they can be. So something like Monster Hunter, right? We got a new Monster Hunter game coming out, Monster Hunter Wilds. Now there's a beta for it, and a lot of people got to play it, express some of their concerns with the game. I know a big thing was the graphical issues. Some shit just looked absolutely fucking wild, super glitchy stuff. But people were able to share their thoughts about that, their thoughts on the combat. Maybe they want things to feel a little differently. And given that Capcom has had a very excellent track record in more recent years, I'm very confident that they'll look at this feedback and apply it to, the full release of Monster Hunter Wilds. Because, this is one of their most anticipated games, and they've shown that they can deliver on those expectations with other games. And I have a lot of faith in them here. Now, there's that potential that this will age poorly. So let's talk about a game that I know is already a good game. So Final Fantasy VII Remake. This game's great. Now, this game took like fucking centuries to make, right? Like Square Enix really took their time here. But you know what? When it launched, people were really happy with it. I was very happy with it. I like Final Fantasy. Considering that it's a reboot here and is not exactly like a true remake to the, Final Fantasy VII, I think they did pretty good here. This is a nice reinterpretation of that original Final Fantasy VII story. The presentation is spot on. The characters are great. The gameplay is fucking frantic and crazy. It leans more into live action combat than the ATB combat of the original Final Fantasy VII. And dude, the music, out of this fucking world. Like Final Fantasy VII's music was already pretty damn good. So hearing a lot of that reimagined and remixed here, oh my god, it's fucking unbelievable. You guys gotta listen to the soundtrack. Now, this isn't the entirety of Final Fantasy VII. This is releasing in parts, which I generally really fucking hate for video games, but I ended up buying Final Fantasy VII anyway, and I was pretty content with what I played. It's a really great game. Part of that is because Square Enix took a lot of time to make sure they perfected what they wanted to make here, and they did really well. And you know what? I didn't play Final Fantasy Rebirth yet, which was the second part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake series, but people say that that's really fucking great. I hope that's the case. I don't have a PS5 to play it or a strong enough PC, but I'll get there one day. Maybe the PC version. I don't know why I'd get a PS5, but that's neither here nor there. You want to hear my thoughts on that? I have a whole other video on my thoughts of consoles. but anyway, What other games? Anything first party from Nintendo is going to be extremely stellar. Whether it's their Marios, their Zeldas, their Smash Brothers, like really fucking incredible titles all around. And keep in mind, I said first party, specifically first party. If we're talking second party, we're talking Pokemon. Pokemon's not as good as it used to be. I think we could all agree with that. They're huff and glue there at Game Freak and just Pokemon Company in general. But that's why we're saying first party titles. And another stellar title. Dude, Skull and Bones, over 10 years of development, for quadruple A. No, I'm pulling your leg. No, Skull and Bones fucking sucks. But anyway, moving on from this point. There are great games that take their time to release out there. You just gotta look for them. Now the last point I want to tackle here is that people say that games nowadays have no soul compared to the games of the past. Now, whatever crack they're fucking smoking, dude, express mail that shit to me, because holy shit, you are tripping. Indie games? Hello? They're probably the biggest source of soul you can possibly find in the industry. And in Undertale's case, that's literal, but that game's like 10 years old at this point. So let's look at more modern stuff. There are two indie games that I played recently that really fucking stick out to me. One of them is Balatro, and forget about mailing the crack to me, actually, because the crack is right here on my phone screen. This is a poker game that is also a roguelite, and this is one of the most fucking addicting games I've ever played. I'm not going to sit here and explain every mechanic to you, but imagine you are a wizard playing poker, and you're casting all these spells on your cards to make them enhanced, and you have like these passive abilities on the side. The game is crazy. And this game was never intended to be as big as it was, at least according to the developer. This game was only really intended for maybe him, some of his family and friends to play, but it ended up being like a worldwide phenomenon, something that him or no one else could have ever imagined. And you know what? It literally became a nominee for Game of the Year. And I think that's fucking rad, man. Here, like look at this. Imagine your game being represented in such a way where the whole world can see your work here and have a song in your game covered by the Game Awards Orchestra. That is just so fucking cool. I can't even imagine that feeling. This is a game made with love and that everyone loves in return. Balatro is a really great game. But in terms of something more action-oriented, Pizza Tower? Dude, Pizza Tower, I'm going to say right here is probably one of the best 2D platformers ever made. Super fucking fast-paced. You're just blitzing through these levels at such high speeds, all complemented by such like amazing 90s inspired animation. I think it looks so good. The music is also out of this world, so frantic, so fast-paced, and you know what? I love it so much. Literally my game that I'm making, Mouseiker, is heavily inspired by Pizza Tower. I take a lot of inspiration from this game. This is a really good game. And, this one was made by a small team who just wanted to make something that they loved. They were inspired by Wario Land, and they just made their own version of Wario Land, but just super fucking fast. It's great. It's honestly an amazing game. But you know what? Not even just looking at indie games, even AAA developers, they're still making games with a lot of love and passion in them. Like, I look at something like Nier Automata now. Listen, the person who directed this game, Yoko Taro, he is a fucking crazy person. And that craziness is very much reflected in this game. The fucking batshit insane crazy combat across both ground and sky. You got like this Shakespeare inspired story with themes of nihilism and sci-fi elements where there aren't any humans on Earth anymore, and it's now being overrun by machines, and the machines are emulating human behavior. like look at this shit.
What is this?
Don't listen to them, 2B.
Together forever. Together forever. Gimme.
They don't have any feelings. They're just imitating human speech. Let's take them out.
Yeah, man, that's Nier Automata. That's Yoko Taro. What a great game. And another one, Elden Ring. Dude, if you ever wanted to see such a well-realized, detailed, beautiful fucking world, Elden Ring is your game. You know, you're running through these vast landscapes on your horse that can double jump. It can double jump. That's fucking sick already. All while you're facing some of the most fucking insane monsters you can ever see in any game. These giant eldritch abominations. This game is something else, man. And on top of that, they add a whole DLC that is so good that it's basically its own other game that also got nominated as its own game at the Game Awards, which got a lot of controversy, but that's not what this discussion's about. People who are saying that there's no soul or passion or whatever the fuck in these games, yeah, man, where's that crack? You know, maybe this Balatro crack is good, but, you know, send me your crack, too. I gotta know which one you're doing. We're clearly doing two different types of crack here. Like who's saying games aren't fun anymore? Fucking Fortnite Jimmy over here? What does he know? Fuck out of here. I want to reiterate this, okay? There is no doubt that the gaming industry was poisoned by greed and complacency. But rather than sitting in the fucking doldrums moping about it, why not move to the part of the gaming industry that isn't poisoned? The part where love and creativity still fucking thrive. If you're somebody who continues to play games but doesn't find them as fun anymore, you're missing out on so many great games that come out pretty regularly. And even if you don't want to play those, you could always just go back to old games and experience those in new ways. You'd be surprised how easy it is to reinvigorate that spark just by freshening up your experience and not doing the same shit that you've always done. And look, if gaming isn't your thing anymore, I completely understand. Life has so many valuable things to offer. Maybe the grass is greener over there for you, where you're taking care of your family and going out doing activities with them, watching them grow, maybe going fishing together. You know, maybe you get more excitement out of learning about geodes and how they formed on this fucked up planet that we live on. But please understand that video games still have so much to offer for those who continue to play them. While the bad games are getting worse, the great games are getting better. Allow us to celebrate those greater games instead of moping over the harder failures. The video game industry has so many beautiful things to offer, and I hope we can help continue making it stronger for years to come. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe if you liked it, and feel free to have a discussion in the comments. I always like seeing what you guys talk about down there. And like I said before, I'm making my own indie game inspired by Pizza Tower. It's called Mouseiker, and it takes advantage of Mickey Mouse in the public domain. Check it out. That's really it. I'm Nick Denoli, and I'll catch you guys later. But even if it's not... What the fuck is that? It's like an airplane. Come on, fly faster. Fucking stupid plane. I don't even see it. Who knows? Maybe it's a drone. Alright, what was I saying?